Have you ever felt like all your achievements are just luck? Like any moment now, someone will realize you're not as much of a professional as you seem? That feeling is called imposter syndrome. It's when a person downplays their own accomplishments, explaining them away as coincidence or luck or someone else's help, all while living with a constant fear of being exposed. And today, we're going to dive deeper into what it really is. Imposter syndrome isn't a disease or a medical diagnosis. The term was first introduced by psychologists Pauline Clance and Susan Imes back in 1978. They noticed that even highly successful people often felt as if their achievements were a fluke rather than the result of their own efforts. It's a psychological phenomenon where we downplay our own success. Instead of acknowledging, yes, I did this, a person tells themselves, I just got lucky, other people probably helped me, or it wasn't anything special. It's important to understand that feeling this way doesn't mean there's something wrong with you. In fact, research shows that up to 70% of people experience it at some point in their lives. Imagine that. Nearly every second or third person has felt like an imposter at least once. Why does it happen? Often, it comes from perfectionism, when we set impossibly high standards for ourselves. Sometimes it's rooted in upbringing. For example, if as children we were only praised for perfect results. Comparison with others plays a big role too, especially in the age of social media, where we see polished highlights but not the mistakes behind them. Scientists have even described a typical cycle of imposter syndrome. A person gets a task and immediately fears they'll fail. So they either work themselves to exhaustion trying to make it perfect, or they procrastinate and struggle with anxiety. In the end, even if the result is excellent, they still explain it away as luck rather than effort. And then the whole cycle repeats. And here's another interesting point. At first, imposter syndrome was studied in women, but later it turned out to affect everyone: men, women, students, and seasoned professionals. It's especially common in environments with high competition or when someone feels like they don't belong. Let's go through some groups and why they're more likely to experience imposter feelings. When someone is just entering a new field, whether it's university, an internship, or their first job, everything feels unfamiliar. You compare yourself to people who already know the ropes and think, I don't belong here. Often it looks like this. You're afraid to ask for help. You assume others know more than you, and you believe your success is just luck. For example, a student gets a high grade but convinces themselves the exam was too easy or the professor made a mistake, instead of recognizing their own effort. External factors matter too. Stereotypes, being in a minority at work, constantly having to prove your competence. If you're one of the few in a team based on gender, race, or orientation, even small mistakes can feel like proof that you don't belong. This isn't because those people are less capable. It's the result of pressure and a system that offers less support and questions their achievements more often. There's also a paradox. The higher you climb, the more likely you are to feel like an imposter. Promotions, awards, and big wins come with greater visibility and higher expectations. People who are perfectionists often interpret even the smallest flaw as proof they're not good enough. For example, a manager leading a major project might think, we just got lucky, even though they and their team put in enormous effort. Some factors are common across all groups: perfectionism, constant comparison, an upbringing where only being the best was valued, and workplace cultures that punish mistakes harshly. And often these factors overlap. For example, a young professional from a minority group in a highly competitive industry experiences a double effect, both as a newcomer and as someone who feels they don't fully belong. But imposter syndrome isn't a life sentence, and it's not a sign of weakness. It's a signal. Your environment, expectations, and internal standards are creating pressure. Understanding that is the first step toward working through it. And hey, if you watched this far, it probably means you're enjoying the video. Do me a favor, hit that like button and drop a couple of random words in the comments. I really appreciate it. So, how can you actually deal with imposter syndrome? First, and most important, acknowledge that it exists. Nearly 70% of people have felt imposter syndrome at some point in their lives. You're not alone. What you're experiencing is normal, and it's something millions of others know too. Second, rely on facts, not feelings. In moments of doubt, we tend to trust our emotions, but emotions often lie. That's why keeping a success journal helps. Write down even the small wins. Later, when you look back, you'll see it wasn't luck, it was the result of your effort. Third, seek feedback from others. We're often our own harshest critics. Ask a colleague, a friend, or a mentor. How do they see your work? An outside perspective is usually much more objective than our inner strict judge. Fourth, consider therapy. Cognitive behavioral therapy is especially effective here. It teaches you to spot and reframe distorted thoughts. For example, turning "I didn't do anything, it was just luck" until "I invested time and effort, and that created results." Fifth, lean on your support network. Share your feelings with friends, family, or coworkers. Very often, when people open up, they hear, "Wow, I felt the same way too." That sense of connection can lift a huge weight off your shoulders. Working through imposter syndrome takes time, but it's absolutely possible. It doesn't disappear overnight. Yet every step, whether it's acknowledging it, keeping a journal, getting feedback, talking to a therapist, or opening up to loved ones, makes you more confident. And the most important thing to remember, these doubts do not define who you really are. It's important to remember that imposter syndrome most often shows up in people who are talented, ambitious, and striving for big goals. It's not a weakness. It's a signal that you're growing and stepping up to a new level. Mistakes and doubts aren't your enemies. They're part of the path to mastery. No professional has ever reached success without them. And here's another paradox. The real imposters are usually the ones who rarely doubt themselves. If you're asking, "What if I don't deserve this?" that means you're being honest and holding yourself to a high standard. So if you're feeling imposter syndrome, know this. You're moving forward, you're learning new things, and you're stepping outside your comfort zone. And that's the truest sign of growth. Imposter syndrome isn't your enemy. It's a signal that you're in a stage of growth. Right now, try to recall one achievement of your own and say honestly to yourself, "I did that." It doesn't matter if it's small. What matters is that it's real. Remember, you are not an imposter. You are someone who's learning, growing, and moving forward. And that's exactly what makes you a true professional. Thank you for watching until the end. If you enjoyed this, don't forget to subscribe. There's plenty more great content ahead. See you in the next video.